Yo, what's up, Chicago? Welcome to Intellectual Radio, popping off with Cheryl Sistron. All right, you guys are in for a treat. None other than Alderwoman Jeanette B. Taylor is in the building. Say hello, Jeanette.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Thanks for having me, sister.
Thank you. Listen, I want everybody to press share. This is finna be a great interview with none other than the African Queen, Jeanette B. Taylor. But I ain't never said your whole name. I just call you Jeanette. I don't know all that B. Taylor, Beatrice, and all of that mess, okay? Now, I'm going to do a disclaimer. The views shared and expressed on this show does not represent Intellectual Radio or Cheryl Sistron, if I didn't say it. We all share and have different views, different opinions, different thoughts, different perspectives. But listen, tonight we just finna tell it how it T.I. is, okay? Now, I love to highlight black entrepreneurs that are productive members of society. I'm going to update you on all the popping news around the city of Chicago and social injustice that we continue to face every day, economic issues. And this segment is the good, the bad, and the ugly of Chicago, okay? We're dealing with the liars, the hypocrites, the bullies. I'm going to expose them all. I hope y'all ain't scared because they continue to belittle black women. They harass us, all of these lovely colonizers, and they help us. But we're going to still work with these people and work them through their trauma that they give us, okay? This is a democracy. This is not a dictatorship. And a lot of times, dealing and growing up in Chicago, a lot of people don't understand that this is a democracy. This is not a dictatorship. You cannot dictate, what to do to us here in Chicago. And we're tired of the go along to get along game, running the show and treating us any type of way. And we definitely have had our faith in the fool. We definitely have had our faith in the fool, Chicago. But you know what? I'm finna let Jeanette take the floor, and we're going to take you guys down Miss Taylor's life that you guys do not know anything about. Y'all think you know, but you don't know. But I'm going to put you and update you on this lovely lady that I met many, many years ago at Beethoven Elementary and all of the schools in the surrounding area when she was a local school council, a mom that cared about Chicago kids. Way before she got to the constituents, she loved it, the children of Chicago. So introduce yourself for popping off that is looking at you now, Jeanette. And I want to start with the local school council.
So I got the pleasure of being called Alderwoman Taylor, but to my babies at home, I'm mama. I got 5 babies, 31, 28, 27. My baby girl will be 19, and I got a baby that's 17. I'm a nana of 1. Got a grandbaby on the way, and so I still clean toilets and wash dishes and cook. And so I'm not one of those special folks. I realize who I am and where I come from. And so for me, I was a teen mom. I was 19 years old with 3 kids. And in my household, it was not a thing of not going to school and not working. And so I went to school and I worked because that was what was required of me. But my mother had worked at Chicago Public Schools for years. And when it was time for my babies to go to school, I noticed that the school they were not getting the same things I got, to the point that my kids were using books that had my name in them. And so if you looking at the books that you used to use when you sat at this same school, we got a real equity problem. And around that time when my babies were going to school, they also started to knock down Chicago Housing Authority. The projects came down. And so what they didn't realize when they knocked down these projects was that where young people were still coming to the schools, because I don't think we realized that schools are the last stable foundation that we have in the community. And they're family to a lot of us. And so you know the principal, you know the teachers, they live in the community. Those kids play with your kids after school. We watch other people's kids. And so I saw Chicago destroy the one thing that we could count on, which was those second parents. I don't think people realize who spends more time with my child than me, my child's teacher. And so we co-parents.
Absolutely.
It's how a lot of us who are in our 40s were able to make it when our parents was working 2 and 3 jobs, or our parents was on drugs, or they just, like, people don't know, but my father died when I was 13. So he didn't leave us. He died. So the people at the schools, the janitors, the gym teachers, the principals and the teachers were your other parent. And so they could discipline you, and they could talk to you, and they supported you, and they just added in where your parents couldn't. And so that's where it started. And don't get me wrong, I didn't want to be on the local school council or the PTA, because I thought them was just a bunch of women who do nothing but complain. And I always thought that the principal knew everything. She got the degree. But my mama told me a long time ago, it's a bunch of educated fools. And so I didn't see my kids getting the same education that I was. And so I started to go to different schools to talk with different parents, because I saw different things happening. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't on the island when this happened. And so when the first time that they talked about closing schools publicly, because let's remember this, because people never talk about it. They were closing schools in our community before anywhere else. And so we don't even talk about McCosh and all of those schools that they snatched from us and closed, and you looked up and they changed the name to Farron. We don't talk about that. And so when they publicly started talking about closing schools was when I kept saying, like, I need more help. I can't do this on an island. And I wanted to get local school council trainings. Harold Washington is the person who came up with the thing about local school councils, and we never give him that credit. He said in order for schools to work, you got to have local accountability. And so he died before he got to see it come to life. But local school councils are the principal, 2 teachers, 2 community members, and 6 parents. And of course you say, why 6 parents? Because parents have more to lose. And we don't realize if I don't bring my kid to the school, y'all don't make no money. And so you might want to respect me and listen to me. And so when it was time for me to get this LSC training, I realized Chicago Public School wasn't going to train me. When they had these trainings, there's 200 people in the room. I came out more confused than I went in. I didn't learn anything. And so at that time, I found the Kenwood Oakland Community Organization. And they were an organization who did local school council training.
That's COCO.
That's COCO. And so I met a brother named G2 Brown, and the first thing he said to me was, hey, did you know you have the power to hire and fire the principal? And I was like, that ain't in none of the books. I'm looking through the books. I don't see that anywhere.
They're not going to tell you that.
Do you know that you have the right to say how discretionary funds are spent? That's not in the books. And so CPS does a great job at disinforming people who are supposed to be helping to move the schools along. And so I was still worried about joining COCO, because COCO had been known as these rebel rousers. And so people don't give COCO credit for, COCO is the reason why we don't have the Olympics. Nobody ever talks about that. And if you know anything that happens after the Olympics, those cities that they go in, they go broke, because they just spent all this money to fix it up, and then nothing else comes. And so after COCO stopped the Olympics from coming, I was like, maybe this is an organization that I could join. At that same time, they built the Harold Washington Cultural Center. And I saw my neighbors change. I saw people sell their homes. And then people started to have to move out of my community. And we were actually a family that got displaced. And so I had to move out of the community that I love. Excuse me. It's my asthma. So a couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting on my block. Just to let you know that elected officials are not exempt from what happened. I'm sitting on my block after a meeting, and somebody shoots, and I'm caught in the middle of the crossfire. And I can't get my key out fast enough to get in the house. And
wow.
I haven't had an asthma attack since Cash Money took over for the 99 in 2000. So I got an asthma pump. All this coughing is really new to me. So my apologies. So after joining COCO and let me say this, I got into COCO. I wound up getting employed by COCO, which was because after President Barack Obama got into office, he did this program called the Say Yes program. And what he did was give community organizations money to train folks. Right. And if they kept those people on the job, they would actually get a credit when they did their taxes. And so that's how I even started to work for Cocoa because I was just happy being I was just happy being a member of the community organization. It's an all Black ran organization. It gets the majority of its money for foundations so it can challenge the city. And I really didn't see other organizations really standing up to the city. I saw them going along to get along, is what you said.
Exactly.
It's like nobody ever says that that's a dumb idea or that doesn't work for community of color.
But Cocoa.
Right, you can't do the same thing you do on the north side out south. We're a different set of folks. We got a different set of values. And so me staying at Cocoa was because I actually learned about who I was as a Black woman. You know, our whole existence has been whitewashed. The sword and the stone that comes on Disney, that's actually something that's in Ghana.
Wow.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about, and I say this, and I want people to hear me. If I had known as a young lady that it was Black women that helped the first astronaut get into outer space, I could have been a mathematician. A lot of these things that we've invented and we've created, that's not what they taught us in school. That's not what our history. And think about this. Right. There's been there's a state law that says since 1980, they're supposed to teach African American history in the school. And I can count on one hand how many schools that I know that actually teach that. And so you're talking about a system that has been created to keep us down. And even though they let us in the door, we shrink. We shrink big time. And so I ain't never shrunk. And so I worked at Cocoa all of these years. Right. And I was happy there. I was happy because it's relationship building. It's finding out what young people really need and want. See, we so busy saying that we know better because we elders. No, we don't. I can't tell you what these young people need and what they talk about if I never take the time to talk to them.
That's
and
right.
A lot of times we don't. We dictate or we talk at them. That's not going to get our communities to change. And we're not going to stop this violence if we're not listening to them. And they're not at the table to help us make these decisions that need to be made with them. Not for them, with them. It's a difference. And so you fast forward to they wanted to do all of these school closings. And then diet is on the list.
Diet hunger strike. Come on, tell them about diet hunger strike.
So, and let me just say for the record, when they first started talking about hunger strike, I'm like, they losing their damn mind. I got a bag full of snacks.
Right.
I eat all day long. I cook when I get home. I'm not about to go on no hunger strike. But then when I saw the city that I love setting up Black children to go across wherever to go to school, and this was the last open enroll high school in our community. Everything else was alternative or charter. And there's a bunch of different data. I ain't got to preach to the choir about what kind of data is on alternative and charter schools. They don't work. They're not like, a regular public school
like
that has to give you the wraparound supports. And so after a year probably fighting with the city, they're like, let's go on a hunger strike. I'm like, okay. I cried every day of the hunger strike because I was hungry every damn day. Imagine cooking for your family and then you can't eat it. And so I was doing that. So I'm sitting on a hunger strike. I would go to LSC meetings. I would take my kids to the doctor. I did regular business. Then I would go home and cook and then go in my room and cry because I couldn't eat.
So what was you allowed to eat? Nothing?
So the only thing we had was water. We drank juice. And occasionally, like after you got sick, so I got sick after the 10th day, we started to drink broth. You had to keep broth. You had to keep and it was like a vegetable broth. It wasn't even chicken broth. It was a broth that we drank that some Latinx mothers had did a hunger strike maybe a year before we had. And so I was weak. I was tired, but I also got this clarity to see that the folks who are sitting in the office don't really represent me. Like, there's no way you got Black and brown mothers and fathers and grandfathers on a hunger strike, and the city has did a media blockout. We couldn't get people to pick it up in the news or anything. It wasn't until the 10th day. And it seemed like the 10th day, the hunger strike went to a different place. So G2 Brown, who was on the hunger strike, and Miss Irene both passed out. I passed out at a CPS board meeting, and I don't even remember that part of my life. I just remember waking up in the hospital like, now what had happened while I got here? And I remember being at the hospital and they kept trying to feed me food. And I was like, no, I'm on a hunger strike. I'm not eating. No, thank you. Yes, I was, because I was determined. I was at the fork of the road in my life because it was either Was I willing to die for these young people? And the answer is yes. And too often we ain't.
Yes.
We not. These young people, that's our future. They're the folks that are going to fix what I'm going to say it, fucked up. They're going to fix it. They will be able to create and come up with, look at all this swag that they got. Look at how these young people are, what they come up with. Not just dances, just creativity whatsoever. Like there was a young lady over in Africa. She invented something that turned bad water into good water they could drink. And so young people are going to fix it. And so I was willing to die for those young people. And my oldest living aunt, who has went on, I love you, Auntie Mike, was just like, baby, that city going to let you die. Get off that hunger strike. And I just couldn't, because I felt like I was doing exactly what the city of Chicago was doing, disappointing those young people.
Every time.
And I wasn't going to do that. I've had young people come cry to me and say, look, when I get home, everything in the world is going on. I could barely find a space to do my homework. Well, come here. When you get out of school, come straight here and do your homework. I've had young people say, I ain't got no money to get home, baby. Miss Jeanette got a link card too, but here this $5 to help you. And I never made them feel like I was any different than them. And so, but after the hunger strike, I didn't want to organize no more. I was done.
What brought you back? What brought it back to you?
The creator, the universe, brought me back to it. Because I was done. It was so bad, they sent people to fight with us during the hunger strike. They barbecued from where we was on the hunger strike at. They would send food to us. They just did really silly stuff.
Down, dirty.
Oh, yes. Oh, they did us really bad. And when you're hungry like that, you start to fight over the little stuff. And so even as the hunger strikers, we was getting into it. It was a really tough time in my life.
Was that busy?
Oh, he was so busy, like you could not believe. And I realized that justice ain't a sprint, it's a marathon. And I was like, this taking too long. We fighting too hard. And because there are so many people going against what you're saying, you feel like you're wrong. So after that, I took some time off. A couple of months, I still did some organizing here and there, but I wasn't working for Coco. And then they asked me to come back, and I was like, I don't know that I could come back. I'm like, I don't know if what we doing is effective. And so I've been there, y'all. I've been where I felt like what the song say, a penny with a hole in it.
And you was ready to give up.
I was until, and then when Coco called me back, they asked me to be the education organizer, which is big, which is huge. That was UTU's old spot. And so being the education organizer of one of the oldest black grassroots organizations in the city of Chicago, I'm like, yes, I won't pass it up, because then I get to bring a different feel. I got these 5 kids who are in different age ranges, so I have a different idea of what parents need and what we should be fighting for. Became the education organizer, was there for 3 years, and I kept saying, what am I supposed to be doing, God? This ain't it, because this too easy. It was easy for me to organize. I didn't feel like I was going to be challenged. And so some folks in my community who are good friends of mine was like, you should run for office. And I was like, you should go to hell. Elected officials make $105,000 starting off. You get $1,000 raise every year. You get free dental. You get good health insurance, and you mistreat the people you paid to represent. No, I am not going to be that person. I cannot do that. And I had cussed half of my coworkers out.
No, you didn't.
Before I even got there. So it's like, how they going to feel? I was banned from City Hall. You hear me? They had my picture up to say, don't let this heifer up in here. I was banned from City Hall.
Who banned you?
Rom did. Rom banned me. I was banned from City Hall. Actually, the one and only time that I've ever been to jail was because I wouldn't leave City Hall. I protested when they first started talking about the school closings. So I was banned from City Hall to the point they just stopped even giving me tickets. They like, if we see you at your door, we're just going to walk you up out of here. So.
Oh, my God. Okay, so then, you know what I noticed? Once you start running for the 20th Ward Alderman, there was a button that you had on. And did you know I noticed that you patterned the button after the late, great Mayor Harold Washington? I knew you was a bad sucker then, baby. Listen, I already had knew you. You get what I'm saying? 2000 or whatever. But, baby, when I saw that button, I said, she finna win, y'all. Come on, tell us about that.
Harold figured it out. I don't know why. Harold is the lesson that we should all learn. in electoral politics. Harold figured out how to bring a rainbow coalition of people together and get into office. And he used to tell people, take the money and vote for me. They can't prove it, don't. We all got to eat. If you got to knock doors for them, do whatever you got to do. But make sure when you go in that booth, you vote for me.
Because they're not going to know who voted.
Exactly. They ain't nobody with you in the voting booth. They ain't supposed to be able to track your vote. And I just remembered that about Harold Washington. And so I tell people all the time, in this last election, I didn't vote for Tony or Lori. I put Harold. Dig him up and ask him what to do, because y'all surely can't figure it out.
Absolutely.
He had Chicago together. He had us in this space to work together. And I hate that, we don't even pay attention to his legacy. And so...
Well, your slogan was fighting for the dignity and the respect our community needs. Do you still believe that
Of
you're
course
fighting for the dignity and the respect that our community needs?
Think about this. They always talking about how poor our communities are. Where the majority of the gas stations and the hot chip and flaming hot places
in our community.
And the beauty, exactly, because we ain't broke. We're $1 trillion spending industry. We ain't saving no money. We got money.
Right.
We just don't save. We're just not into what everybody else is doing because we got our own sets and boundaries. And so those places come into our community, and just imagine this: the liquor store opening at 7 a.m. Wow, you don't do that on the matter of fact. You don't do that in Hyde Park.
No, they don't. And I live in Hyde Park.
Your gas stations, they ain't dirty. They ain't selling old cheese. They make sure everything is clean and up to date. But fresh. In our community, exactly. And normally on the south and west side. And so I always tell, it's funny, I just told this to Alderwoman Sophia King, I got a love-hate for Hyde Park. And I love it because it's everything we used to have back in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
Where you could go to 43rd, 39th, 35th, 57th, 55th, 59th, 87th, 79th, and get any. I never even knew downtown existed. Because I could go on one of the major corridors and get what I needed. But Hyde Park is that. And so how is it that Hyde Park is safe and has all these things, but not even 10 miles away in Woodlawn, we plagued with all of this foolishness? That's because it's manufactured misery. They know the type of communities they create, and they know what the community going to be like 20 years before. So what's happening now, they had already planned 20 years ago.
The jig is up, Chicago.
It definitely is. And we got to realize we're the leaders we've been waiting on. It ain't going to be no Jesse. It ain't going to be no Al. It's going to be Cheryl. It's going to be Jeanette. It's going to be some everyday folks who go down to City Hall, tell it like it is, get in those seats, and make the city work for the taxpayers, all of us. Because we all pay taxes. And so if I pay taxes, why I can't see a return on my investment in my community? That's because elected officials are representing themselves instead of representing the people that they are paid to represent.
So is it time to dismantle them?
Oh, it been time. Listen, if they let a sister like Jeanette get up in there, we definitely know times have changed.
Because we definitely have faith in the food. Usually at 7:30 we start with the Lori Lightfoot report card. But, the world is interested in knowing what actually happened, Jeanette. What actually took place to make, them just show the pictures of you holding your hands and her slapping her hand and the different disagreement, because I heard a little of it, but I want you to tell it the way it happened.
So, the Corporation Counsel are the lawyers that are supposed to serve and protect the citizens of Chicago and really do what's in the best interest of them. Lately, the Corporation Counsel has been siding with the mayor's office. And so when it came to Miss Jeanette Young, and that is the black social worker who was in her home and who was seen standing naked for 10, 20 minutes while the police searched her home on a wrongful raid because they were at the wrong house. And you hear her clearly saying, "You're at the wrong house. What are you looking for?" And then they continue to look because they wanted to find some way to justify that wrongful raid.
That's right.
And so Mayor Lightfoot, along with Superintendent Brown, and along with loads of elected officials of all colors, said what happened to her is wrong. Well, they're trying to give Jeanette Young $1 million for being disgraced. And I got two things to say about that. That's BS. And number two, if this was a white woman, this wouldn't even be a conversation.
That's right.
And so the thought that this was happening and they were appointing somebody to Corporation Counsel, it was to prove a point. So it had nothing to do with this young lady, that they were appointing. This was about bringing notice to what the city was trying to do. Because they basically told Ms. Young, you take this $1 million.
And going on about your
business.
Right,
well, we dismissing the case. Y'all didn't do that in the Ryan Harris with the two young boys that y'all claimed raped her and killed her when y'all know they didn't. I've been at the table where we've given folks money for lawsuits who were definitely in the wrong. Well, because the police did wrong, we've given them money. And so this black woman that we're all saying was done wrong, that's all we feel like she's worth. And Ms. Young just doesn't want money. She wants legislation. And so we're fighting to have this legislation. And so defer and publish is a way to say we're not going to vote on something today. We'll vote on it at the next city council meeting. And so Ray Lopez, who is the alderman of the 15 Ward, deferred and published. You need somebody to second it, and I second it. And so if you look at the tape, she points toward my direction and says, come in the back. I wasn't for sure if she was talking to me or was she was talking to Nick Spazzato, who was another alderman that was sitting right in front of me. Right. So she walks past Ray Lopez and points me again, so I go to the back. So I'm thinking she going to say to me, because I need people to understand this is not a woman that I don't text. This is not a person that I don't check on. This is not a person, when I see her in public, if she embraces me, I embrace her. When I see her looking, because it's hard for women in politics, but it's extremely hard for black women. And so this is not a woman that I don't check on or I don't respect. And so I'm thinking she's going to come to the back and say, can you please consider we need to get this done? I need to fill this space. No, she comes in the back. She's pointing her finger at me and she's screaming, which make all the city council turn around. And so when you see my hand go up, I'm basically saying, get your hand out of my face and lower your voice. I am not a child. I'm a grown-ass woman. Don't talk to me that way. So she moves her finger down, but she continues to scream at me. Like, you cutting out a Latinx woman, and you don't do this, and blah, blah. I'm not your child. You're not my boss. We're co-workers, and you going to treat me as such. It's what I say all the time. This a democracy, sis. This ain't no dictatorship. And so for about 3 more minutes, she goes on and on and on. And then I'm like, you are what's wrong with this city council. You refuse to work with us. You think you can do this by yourself, but obviously you can't. And like anytime issues come up about us, which means black people, you stand in the way. You're the problem. Wow. But what you clearly need to understand is this city is not going to move until we all work together. And then you see her throw her hands up and she walks away. And I'm like, bye, right to her. And so I want to say this. I am not trying to teach young women, especially black women, to fight amongst each other. We are already taught that we are each other's competition. But I'm also not going to be bullied. That's not the first or second time she's done that to somebody. And I'm a little girl from the low end. That ain't what we do. You walk up to me with your hand in my face, the 25-year-old Jeanette would act totally different.
Right.
But I do understand that I'm an elected official, and it just ain't in me to do that with her. And so for all the folks who dragged me for defending myself,
African-American women.
Oh, black women dragged me literally. And some of these black women I know, which hurt even more, because you could have picked up the phone and called me and asked me what happened. You all saw a picture and just assume. And we know what they say when you assume.
You make an ass out of yourself.
You definitely do, and you did. And so as an elected official, it's my responsibility and duty to explain anything that I do. I give people my personal cell number. My constituents have my personal cell number. You ain't talking to my staff. You are talking to me. So there's nowhere in the world these people couldn't have picked up the phone and asked me. But it's the reason why they're able to come in our community and do what they do. Because we won't take the time to talk to each other. We talk at each other. And so I've been through some stuff in the last 2 weeks, because here I am taking up for another black woman, but you got black women dragging me without even asking me, hey sis, tell me what happened. I owe you that explanation as a taxpayer. You paid my check and I clearly understand that. And so I was on the phone to 2 and 3 in the morning explaining to people what happened. And I'm okay with it because I signed up for it. But I didn't sign up for people to disrespect me. That's number one. And 2, not to even have a conversation. Because don't get me wrong, everybody can't take a Jeanette Taylor, and I'm good with that. That's okay. I ain't for everybody. I'm okay. But what I'm not okay with is people not even willing to have the conversations, and that y'all just drag me. But I will say I'm grateful for the people who stood up and said, no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. You don't know Jeanette. And this thing of it was staged or the unions put me up to it and all that. I was Jeanette B. Taylor before I got with Coco, the unions, or anybody else. Check my record. I got pictures where I'm going off on Rom and Daily. So I'm going to need people to understand this was not staged. I don't want to run for another office. The mayor's job is hard. That's not an easy job. She don't got it easy. I feel bad for her. But what I don't feel bad about is I hear everybody saying they want to work with her, and she just is not there. She doesn't. She thinks she knows. Well, you could obviously see we're a city in chaos. You don't know. And so if COVID has not taught you anything else, we do not have the luxury not to work with each other and talk to each other. Period. Those days are done. And anybody who is still on that, get them out of your space. You don't need to be working with them. You don't need to be talking to them. They don't need to be involved in anything you are, because that's why we're in so much trouble in the city.
And, you know, it was amazing that the price of a naked black woman's body is worth $1 million. It's amazing. And not only are we dealing with that she can catch the looters, she can't catch the shooters. This legalization of weed, where they let everybody that is not our complexion run this city down to the ground. They put all of our sons, our nephews, our aunties, our nieces, and everybody in jail for selling marijuana. But here we have them making hand over fist and won't even put black representation in. What do you say about that?
Get these coons out of office, because that's legislation. That's how many people voted against this legislation or said let's wait before we put marijuana legislation through. And I want people to remember, Chicago has home rules. So we could have controlled it. So look at what people did. You didn't have people fighting for that. Even some of my coworkers. Now, I respect people who are upfront and honest and say, Jeanette, I can't vote that way because of my community. But folks who played the game, or people who look like me and vote against my own interests, please explain why you're here. What are you doing? Why are you here? But that's because we got a class war in this city. And it's really bad amongst black people. Me making 6 figures, I'm still a broke little girl.
That's right.
Because I got bills to pay. I had a bunch of debt before I got here. But that don't make me mistreat anybody else, and that don't make me stop at anybody from eating. They fight for 15. We should have 20. This is one of the richest cities in the world. Why the heck do we got people sleeping off the expressway on Roosevelt? Look at all this CARE Act money we got. Look at all this AAP money we're about to get. We can fix a lot of things in our city, but because they really only affect black folks and Latinx folks, they'll let us kill each other.
Absolutely. And there's no accountability for the police. There's no accountability for anything that is happening in our community. Just yesterday, 4 people were shot, you know, and we're coming into July 4th weekend, and it's going to be some more mishap and some mayhem. But we have these cameras everywhere. We have these hidden cameras
that they want us to pay for. They telling me instead of me fixing a street or alley, buy this camera. But you're not catching anybody. And let's make it clear, we know who the shooters are. But when one of my first heartbreaks when I got into office, actually I had 2 in 1 month, and I don't know how to take it. 13-year-old Deion Williams gets shot by another youngster in the community in the back of his head, and that youngster got put on monitor. Now, the father didn't want this kid to go to jail, which shout out to Mr. Williams, because I have mad respect for him. But he wanted this young man to get rehabilitation that they won't do. Another young lady, 19 years old, 2 years ago, she testified against the guy that killed her cousin. He sent word, and they killed her while she was pregnant. And I wasn't even in office 2 months. I'm in 4 different police districts, and I don't think people understand that every day I get calls about shootings. They didn't protect that young lady. That young lady's family was calling to say, hey, where is the money for the protection? Where she needs to move. We need to move. We need to get out of here. And it never happened, and it was too late. And so it's the state's attorney office along with the county, along with city officials and federal, us all working together, because that's the problem. You think I'm going to tell what's going on and you can't protect me or my family? No, I'm going to keep quiet because I want to live. And so don't make me choose. Have things in place that actually will get people to say, and I want us to stop that with that snitching. That's something amongst thieves. That ain't amongst everyday people. You do the crime, you're going to do the time. It's just that simple. But also, we got to put money in place in these programs. Kids don't have enough to do. There are not enough after-school programs, teen centers. We employing people outside of the state and not people who actually live in the city. And so there is something, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. We know what good communities look like. We just need the government to give us the money and move the hell out the way. Stop coming up with your dumb rules about what you can and cannot do. Like, we know how to solve this stuff on the streets. Y'all just won't allow us because it benefits y'all. There is money in misery.
Definitely. Legalized thieves, that's what I call them. And I'm tired of hearing the mayor saying, I wasn't aware, I didn't know. How you don't know? How you don't know?
So with Miss Young, I never understood her logic, but I never asked her either. Miss Young's case happened on Rom's watch. So while we expect you to do something different or make sure that Miss Young is taken care of in the right way, this didn't even happen on your watch. It was before you got in office. And so a lot of these issues exist before she got here. But what she has to do is what the other administration wouldn't do. And that's to work with everybody. That means the boys on the block. I just can't wrap my mind around us not knowing that we got to meet the community at whole and work with everybody. And these ain't gangs. These corner cliques. Gangs knew the creed. Gangs had meetings. They had dues. They protected the community. I don't know what's going on now.
Yes.
And it's too much rhetoric. It's too many people who are not from Chicago who talk about Chicago as if they come from Chicago. Lori's from Ohio. Deputy Superintendent Brown is from Texas.
And they talk like they right here. They've been here all their life.
But you got to do the groundwork. See, it's okay to be from other cities. You bring a different perspective, but you got to do the groundwork. I'm born and bred it here. Bred it means I've sat at the feet of people who didn't think they was worth to find out why was they there or what they wanted or what they needed. I want to know. I want to be changed. And I tell people all the time, Martin Luther King was killed because he stopped talking about civil rights and started talking about silver rights. Where's the money? Where's the reparation? Yeah, Juneteenth, that's all nice and dandy. You give us another paid holiday, woo-woo. Where's my reparation for me and the descendants of African slaves building this country for free? Let's have that conversation. Y'all do everybody else get reparations. Everybody else.
And
Holocaust.
they haven't gave us nothing. That's right.
Even with the hate that's happened in the Asian community. They got whole legislation. Here it is. We got the war on drugs, Reaganomics. We had the Clintons. We had the Bushes. Hell, we had Obama.
That's right.
And black people still haven't get nothing. You talking about the people who everything that you love about America came from black people. And if you know that in your heart of heart, then you know we owe to do.
Absolutely. And you know what? Just because they your skin folk don't mean they your
they
kinfolk.
not your kinfolks at all.
And just because they mama black, baby, don't mean they care. Do you know that?
Listen, I see cooning at its finest in some of the spaces I in, and I just shake my head. Because I ain't got a heaven or hell to put you in, but let's be truth and honest about what happens in the community. We got too many backdoor conversations that the community needs to be aware of. We do too many things, so we'll ask you for your tax dollars, but we're not going to ask you to sit at the table and come up with ways for us to either spend it or policies to make sure it's spent the right way. This whole system is corrupt. It is.
Your constituents are very, very lucky to have you. Do you know that? Because a lot of people only know you from June 23rd. Do you get it? I've known you way back when, doing the groundwork, doing the grassroots, helping the children, helping the local school council, then going to Cocoa, then now furthering your way because God has enlarged your territory. Do you know that? And he put you at this city council. So the 20th ward don't even know how blessed they truly are. But just to listen to you say that you go to everything in your community.
Bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, graduation parties, block club parties. If I'm available and they ask, I go. Because at the end of the day, it's the reason why people hate politics.
That's right.
They hate government because they haven't been able to trust it. It hasn't been transparent about what it does and what it don't do. And I tell people all the time, I ain't no turkey and ham alderman. I ain't giving you turkey and hams. I'm going to do my job. That's how people get votes. You get a community turkey ham and we vote for you. Did you get my street fixed? Is my lights fixed? Is this grass cut? Are you making sure that my landlord, while he getting all this money from the city and the state, is he taking care of the property? It's those type of things that we need to make sure that elected officials will do. Are you accessible? I should not have to make 20 appointments and not be able to talk to you. I have constituent day. On Thursdays from 2:30 to 7:30, you can come in my office and meet with me without an appointment. If you come in my office during the week and I'm there and I'm not busy, and I see you got an issue, I come out, I speak, I'm talking to folks because I'm a person and I want you to treat me like I'm treating you like I would want you to treat me. And so I'm putting out in the universe what I want back. And that's respect. I don't care and I tell people that all the time. I don't care if you make 6 figures or no figures. You still deserve to be respected. And that's how I just treat people. And I don't take advantage of me being in the space. And I tell people all the time, I say I hate it here. I love my constituents. I love being able to teach them the system. I love being able to help folks understand how to navigate things that nobody ever explained with them. What I hate is that we play with people's livelihoods, and it's after they dead and they're gone and we done mistreated them, and we could have did something this easy to give them to them that I hate. I hate that we work in silos in the city council. We do, because we're not working together to reassure that we're protecting all of Chicago. We pick and choose. Downtown, you saw during the riots, was protected like never before.
Absolutely. They stopped the CTA trains.
And raised the bridges.
And they raised the bridge.
Yep.
But not even that. They had over maybe 50 CTA buses
so
stationed
they could put
at 35th. And no, they had all of the police on them. And that's how they moved around in the city. And they blocked and barricaded everything. So they had a lot of the public angry with CTA when CTA didn't have that call. They had nothing to do with it. But the mayor of Chicago stopped it and did everything. And it's just amazing to me, you know. And she's definitely, to me, in my opinion, for the police. She's not for Black America. She's not. She is, yeah. Say it again.
She is the police.
Uh-oh.
We are 3 years behind the dissent decree, which was something that was supposed to be put in place so that we could hold police accountable. Any legislation that comes to the Public Safety Committee gets held or we don't even get to talk about. And look at people's history. Look at her past job. She the police. It's plain and simple. And this is no disrespect to her, but let's call it what it is. I'm an organizer. So I'm down at City Council trying to organize people to say, this is how we work together. Even when I don't agree with them, even when I don't like them. But this is how you work together to create the change that my community wants to see. And so it's the equivalent of me saying you're a LSC member, and when you wrong, I'm just going to let you be because you're an LSC member, you just get to do what you want to do. No, that's not what we got to do. And so policing has gotten worse. In all other major cities, the police have moved in the right direction, except Chicago. Why? Because the head person in charge is the police. And whether you like it or not, that's how she sees and views things.
And she gave all that money to them, too.
That CARES Act money, she sure did. When we
and that was
supposed
wrong.
To, hey, who we wouldn't have known if Alderman Ed Burke wouldn't have said anything.
Whoa.
He the one that called it out because we didn't know. And because remember, the city council gave her ultimate powers over that money. So she didn't have to consult or talk to us about that money.
Now, that's wrong.
I'm just saying.
You know, that's just like at CTA and at the local union. They put it a PPP loan in our name and didn't consult with us. You know, that's low down, dirty. This is the new slavery, these policies and procedures that they use. And, baby, they done took off the white sheets, baby, and they done put these 3-piece suits on, baby. You know that? That's low down, dirty.
Just trying to say, you look at how people vote. You hear what they say. You go and look at their wards. You talk to the people they represent, and you'll find out who is real and who is fake.
We're dealing with a whole bunch of fake shakers, baby. But you know what? There was something on your page that I loved. You know that? Don't give me crumbs and tell me it's cake. Explain to me, where did you get that from, Jeanette?
My heart. I speak from my heart. And so the city council budget this year talked about raising property taxes, which my community can't afford. The median income in my community is $25,000. So, and I've been there where I ain't paying my light bill or gas this month so I can buy my kids shoes. Or I'm not paying my lights and gas during the winter because I know they're not going to cut it off until it's income tax time when I'm hood rich and I can pay it all at one time. And so I know that feeling. And so they raised. So now when you go through the red light, not the red light cameras, the speed cameras around school, the fee goes up now. It's $35. So it used to be it's 20 miles per hour, but you can go over 5 miles, you wouldn't get a ticket. Now if you go over 3 miles, you get a $35 ticket. my community can't afford that.
That
We can't afford.
$35.
Right. And I didn't see enough things in the budget that talked about holding the police accountable and us doing treatment, not trauma, which means instead of the police answering to some of these calls of mental health, you got a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a therapist, those type of folks. And so I voted no. And so my coworkers was talking about this, the best budget ever. And I don't believe we got here this far. And I'm proud to, and I wasn't going to say anything. I'm not one of those people that I need to say anything all the time. Sometimes my presence in the room and my resting bitch face is more than enough. It is. So sometimes I don't say anything, but I was sitting there. And if you're watching me on camera, I'm doing this. I'm holding my, because I can't believe what's coming out their mouth. And so I was like, don't give me crumbs and tell me it's cake. This is not, you ain't fooling nobody. Y'all are not fooling anybody with this budget. How are we raising property taxes at a global pandemic when people are about to be homeless? And that's just not renters. We talking about landlords and homeowners. We cannot afford any of our bills. But this a great budget? I'm confused.
All them boots on them cars, baby. I couldn't believe it. She ran on transparency, ran on accountability, and all I saw is yellow boots up and down the street when everybody got that little $1,100, and that was wrong, Lord.
And they gave us 1,400 months for being in a house for what? Almost 2 years. And you wonder why I got crime. And I use the analogy of a cat. A cat will love you, but back it up in the corner and see what it will do.
Scratch the mess up.
And go back to waiting for you to rub it like nothing ever happened. It's the same thing with people. You can't put us in communities that's already starving. We ain't getting COVID testing. We now not getting any food. There's nobody answering the unemployment lines for you to apply. You can't go in no space and get a link card or any of that. What did y'all think was going to happen?
That's right.
Like you force people, and don't get me wrong. When people were riding, I was just like, can't be me. But I understood, and I was so tired of hearing this. Y'all tearing up y'all own community. Let's get something straight. We don't own any of those institutions.
None of them.
Now, back in the day, the 80s and 90s, we did. But we own absolutely nothing now. And think about this. It's insured. You cannot be in the city of Chicago.
Say that word again.
With the insured. So they got their money back. So, and you have a population of people who are angry. Like, Black lives need to matter. Like, that was a big thing. And people, all lives matter. All lives ain't being shot for nothing. All lives ain't being shot for going to get a bag of Skittles and a juice. All lives ain't being shot for sitting in the car with your family. All lives ain't being taken care of when it's a kid in the playground with a toy gun. Come on now. That's happening to Black folks at higher rates than anybody else. And so this rhetoric of why is it happening? Y'all have forced it. Y'all forced people in. Listen, I got 5 kids, 1 grandbaby, and another on the way. At the end of the day, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to make sure they eat. And whatever that is whatever that is. And you can take it whatever way you want to take it. And I mean that. I love my babies, and I'm going to fight for them, and I'm going to do what I need to do for them. In the richest country in the world, there's no way y'all should have put us in a position to do it anyway. Y'all had the money. We got millions of dollars. And we ain't talking about billions. And we ain't talking about all of these organizations and corporations, which I will say that actually gave out money to small businesses. University of Chicago. I ain't been their best friend, I ain't been mine. But there's been some transparency between us. They gave out food. They gave out grants. And to be honest, Chicago did what it always does. We bail out the banks and corporations and leave the people hanging.
That's right. Now, I read a quote off your page that said, y'all seem like professional time wasters. Tell me about this, baby.
So, it's equivalent to the meeting today. We have these committee hearings during budget, and it's your opportunity to ask questions. And so my questions is always, what are you doing with the money? Where you spend it? That type of thing. And so if I'm not mistaken, this was a meeting with Superintendent Brown again. Because remember, 40% of the city budget is spent on policing. But we don't feel safe in our communities. And definitely on the South and West Side, ain't seeing a return on that investment. So we sitting here, we asking him all these questions. And he has absolutely no answers.
Wow.
You wasting my time, professional time wasters, is exactly what they is. You came unprepared in front of elected officials that you knew we were going to ask questions about how we spending the money.
Maybe he didn't think y'all was going to be asked no questions. What do you think he's done?
He in the wrong seat. He in the wrong space.
Because I think that job pays, what, $150,000?
I don't care if it paid him $50,000. It's city tax money. It's the taxpayers' money. And he needs to be, and he make way more than that. I have to look and see. Huh? Yeah.
Superintendent. Wow.
So as much money as you making, you should know better. And you come prepared.
What question did you guys ask him? How did he respond? I want to hear that.
I didn't hear you.
What question did you guys ask him? How did he respond?
So my question to him was, how many officers in each police district? I'll get back to you on the chair. How many people are actually on desk duty? Because we spend a lot of money for police officers who sit behind the desk and do work that maybe civilians could do. He couldn't answer it. I also asked him a question on ratio. How many black officers are actually in black communities, that type of thing. He couldn't answer.
He didn't have nothing.
He had absolutely nothing, which just drove me nuts. And I'm like, this is professional. And think about it, like today, we were there from 11 to 5. So I'm there for all that time, and you can't give me nothing tangible that I could take back to my community and say, okay, y'all, it took the police 2 hours to answer the call because, honestly, all the police officers are downtown. He's just not truthful and honest about it, but it's the reason why people want community control over the police, because he's appointed to the mayor. So it's just like with the appointed school board. Who you think they're going to answer to? Not to the public, the people who appointed them to those places.
That is so bad. Do you know I pulled up one of your time hops? Time hop 4 years ago. The system has figured out how to keep us blaming each other instead of our true enemy. When we all fight, we all win. We can no longer allow our petty differences to keep us from making things right for our young people and elders. We all play a critical part in making change. Where was your mind at when you was writing that?
Because think about this in my community. While we was fighting school closings, Norfolk Southern was taking over Inglewood. And they bought a lot of the Inglewood property, moved those families that have been there for 10 and 20 years, and now they no longer are living in Inglewood. I think that's my phone. It might not be yours. That's my apologies.
Our phone break.
I know, right? I'm sorry. I thought I had it off. Oh, I do. Yeah, so my apologies. That's what happened when you ain't been home. My kids and my family, they a lot of times are worried about my welfare, so they got a tracker on my phone. They look for me when I don't answer, and so that's what that is. When we were fighting the fight to keep the schools open, these families were fighting to stay in their communities, and it just didn't happen. And so that's how they keep us fighting amongst each other for little things. So, like, who gets contracts? There's enough money for everybody to get contracts.
Right.
They pit us against each other to do things like that. And so that's what I meant by, like, we don't have time for that anymore. I can't worry about how Cheryl hair look or what glasses she wearing. It ain't none of my business, number one. And number two, we got better things to do. And so how do we make sure that everybody eats? And I'm a firm believer that Chicago is rich enough to make sure that everybody eats. We don't have to be crabs in a barrel, but that's what they do. And that's how they pick us off. Think about this. There are 20 black folks in the city council. All we need is 6 more votes and we would run it. But some people don't realize their power, or they've been ostracized in those spaces for so long. I had aldermen tell me when I first got there, you make 6 figures now, you ain't like them.
Wow.
I've had folks tell me, you better worry about your own ward. Don't worry about everybody. Get what you could get for your people and don't worry about it. That mentality is the reason why the South and West Sides don't move. We don't realize our power, and I'm just grateful that I work with parents and students and teachers over the years to realize who I am. So when I'm in a room with these folks, I don't shrink. I don't care how many bachelors or masters. You can't, listen, I got street smarts and book smart. Ain't nothing you can do with me. You could come in with your fancy lingo and talk all over my head all you want to. At the end of the day, what you trying to say to me? And see, that's the problem with the city as a whole. We've talked over people. We don't bring them in the process. We ain't teaching people how to get city services done. We ain't teaching people how to do business with city council because we just want to hold it all to ourselves. So we only got a few black contractors in the city that do major projects. Why? When there are plenty of black contractors in the city, why in the union there are not a bunch of black folks in the trade unions? They're more white and Latinx because you make it difficult for us to even get in. Or we don't even know where to access it at. And things like drug testing is keeping us from being in the union. Half of the elected officials on drugs. Shit. I'll never forget that gentleman that was in D.C. who wanted people in housing to be drug tested, and then they arrested him for drugs. Like,
whoa.
Come on, bro.
So what is your legacy? What do you want your legacy to be at the end of all of this? At the end of all this city council mess and this budget strikes and all of this, what do you see your legacy being?
My legacy was my kids and my grandbabies. That's my legacy. But I want people to always know that I'm fighting for everybody. I'm fighting for the little person. I'm fighting for the woman who got 5 kids under the age of 10 who can't do remote learning for all her kids. And she working a 40-hour job. She needs to work 80 hours, but she ain't spending no time with her kids. I'm fighting for her. I want people to know that I ain't backing down. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Lori, Barack, Beyonce, shit, Queen Elizabeth. Unchecked power is dangerous in this country. It's how 45 has moved us so far back, which makes people comfortable enough to want to say nigga or wonder why they can't say certain things, or why they they appropriate our culture, like white women wearing braids. Sis, that's what you do. I don't even care. But at the end of the day, know that you got all those things that you're doing because of me. And Malcolm X said it better than anybody. The most disrespected person in this country is the black woman. But the black women made sure Biden got in the office. Black women are in these spaces saving this world and getting it together. So you want me to save the world before dinner time, but you gonna mistreat me? No. No ma'am, no ham, no turkey, no spam. No. No.
No what?
No ma'am, no ham, no turkey, no spam.
All right.
I used to like spam until I almost cut my finger off trying to use
Open the can.
Listen, I know what it's like to go to bed hungry after feeding my kids, and that's not a reality any of us should have. We should not. Not in this country. Not in this country. And the thought that black people are treated the worst just
is amazing.
I can't wrap my mind around it. I get up every day hopeful that we can change what's in place and we can get people to believe, because that's the problem. Our trust as black folks has been betrayed over and over and over and over again, even by folks that look like us. And so that's the part that hurts. And so you don't trust the system. It's why people don't. I get so tired of people talking about, you got to vote. Why would I vote when I voted for you and you did absolutely nothing but worry about lining your own pockets?
That's right.
Like I get so tired of people acting like there's not a reason for the things, or that systematic racism has not created this manufactured misery.
Well, you know what, Jeanette? You a bad S-H-I-T, baby. You is bad. And you know what? I just want to first just stop and let you know that I truly adore you. I admire you. You know, I think I'm older than you, but I look up to you. I'm 5'0", baby, you know.
Are you?
I'm a bad little 50-year-old something, baby.
You know, because black don't crack, baby.
Black don't crack, baby. And then when you drink Project water, it definitely don't crack, baby. It preserves you. All that rust that was in them pipes. You know, all that rust was in them pipes, baby.
I like that heat. What you talking about? I miss that Project
out the flow.
Oh, yes. Nothing like that heat.
But you know what? I admire you. I adore you. And these people do not know who you are. So I wanted to make sure that I bring you to Intellectual Radio and let you pop off and tell who you are way before you even got to become an alderwoman. You know, a lot of people don't know that how you had to fight for the city of Chicago's children. And I want you to know that I have a shirt for you, boo.
Thank you.
And it is from Popping Off, girl.
Thank you.
And I bought you. You got a new shirt. It's
Thank
from Popping
you.
Off. And listen, you can come anytime that you want to Intellectual Radio and talk about anything for your constituents. If there's some drug testing, if there is anything that you're doing to help your community at the 20th Ward, Intellectual Radio would love to have you come back whenever you want. If it's next year, next month, you come back. You let me know. Cheryl, listen,
Thank you.
I need everybody to know this. You come, you can tell it. And baby, you know you are the most beautifulest woman I have ever met. And you are my inspiration. You are the reason now that I am taking up the plight and the fight against Local 308 and CTA and the way that they treat their employees. And you're the reason that I'm looking at that, you and Coco and you too. You know, so.
Thank you, sister. I appreciate you having us. I just got to say that my favorite comedian was Paul Mooney. And he said something that always sticks to me. And he said either we going to hang together or we going to hang together.
Either we going to what?
Hang together or we going to hang together.
So, thank you guys for tuning in to Intellectual Radio. Popping Off with Cheryl Sistra. Jeanette, is there a way that you want anybody to contact you?
So you can, 5707 is the office. We are going to be there after Tuesday, 5 days a week from 9 to 5:30 regular hours. Our office number is 773-966-5336. My personal cell is 773-620-9055. Now, I got 2 rules. Good morning is after 10, and unless you dead on fire, don't call me after 9.
Intellectual Radio popping off with Alderwoman Jeanette B. Taylor. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you learned something. Bye, you guys. You know what? I love you. I love you. You know that? You a bad sucker, baby.
So surprised, baby. I appreciate
You are a bad sucker, baby. You know we gonna hang together?
Oh, we gonna hang.
We gonna
together.
hang
I
together.
love me some Paul Mooney. I read his book. I saw him when he was in Chicago. So
Thank you, guys.
I work for the security guard, right?
Mhm.
I make $16 an hour, right? And I want to know what are they doing that we can't do? That's $16 an hour. I really want to know. But the crime, I mean, it's just ridiculous.
But that's because they choosing not to do anything. They don't want to be held accountable now. So that's the big